Hey fam, Merry Christmas. I just wanted to film a bonus video for fun. I wasn't planning on it, but spontaneously. I've already filmed an update. You've probably seen that, but I just thought might as well throw some content in as well since it's Christmas. And we hear a lot of things circulating this time of year, a lot of misconception about Christmas. People saying Christians shouldn't celebrate Christmas, it's not scriptural. People saying it's based in pagan rituals or pagan festivals and holidays, and it was just co-opted by the Christians, and it has its origins and its roots in paganism and in demonic stuff or whatever. People, they cite Sol Invictus, or they'll cite, Saturnitis or whatever, and you see these words come up not only for Christmas but for Easter. But we'll address Easter another time. Or, whether it's Greek, Roman, Zoroastrian, pagan ritual claims that are made about the origin of Christmas. I just want to lay that to rest. It's nonsense. All of it is hogwash. Go research, go look into it, and you'll find that the record for such things is extremely weak. And not only that, the record for Christmas being practiced by the early church with no relation to these claims is extremely strong. It goes all the way back to Irenaeus and to Athanasius in the 2nd century, the 4th century, Eusebius, the church historian. All of these early church fathers reference these early Christian festivals, these feasts that were celebrated in honor of Christ and his birth, including the December 25th date. That dating is very strong historically. That's another claim you see circling around, is this idea that Christ didn't really wasn't born on December 25th. That's also nonsense. The record, this historical evidence is completely evident. It's just completely clear that the early church and the Christians have always celebrated Christ's birth on December 25th. And even the scriptural record has a very clear witness to that. When you look at in the Gospel of Luke and the rotation of the division of Abijah that Zechariah, the priest, served in the temple, you can historically locate that timetable for the conception of the forerunner, John the Baptist. And then 5 months later, the conception of Christ in March 25th, and therefore the birth took place on December 25th. John the Baptist's conception was 5 months prior to Christ's, and so it's scripturally attested to. You can go look that up. I can link some articles too. I have them. So whatever you've heard objecting to that idea, the common one that's really lame is people say, oh well, they were, the shepherds were keeping watch over their flocks by night, and it was winter, so they, obviously it didn't happen in winter. It couldn't have happened in winter if they were out in the cold at night, which is just ridiculous. If you've ever lived in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean, in the coastal regions in Israel or in Lebanon or any of those places, that's nonsense. It's very temperate. Even in the winter. It's just like Southern California, to be honest. It wouldn't have been an issue. So that's just a very surface level objection that holds no water. But a lot of work has been done on this, a lot of scholarship, and it's pretty much overwhelmingly obvious that the Christians have always celebrated Christ's birth on December 25th from the early days, from the apostolic days. Irenaeus even lists the apostolic succession of this tradition from the apostles to his day, which were only a couple generations or so. And so, again, 2nd century. So the evidence is overwhelming. And these claims, and here's the thing, even if the claims about pagan origins or whatever, even if those claims were true, which they're not, it's kind of a silly objection, because literally everything in Christianity is a plundering of what Satan has robbed from creation. It's a plundering of the pagan counterfeits and the redeeming of all of creation, the redeeming of all of these pagan counterfeit things, and the transformation of them under the lordship of Christ and the subjugation of all of the glories of the nations under the kingdom of Christ. Like it says in Revelation, that the glories of all of the nations were brought into the New Jerusalem. And that just as Israel plundered the Egyptians from the gold, the same gold from their idols, which was then remade into, melted and remade and used in the temple. This is what we find in the conquest of Christianity in the world, is we find even, I'll give you an example, people who say, that things of pagan origin are demonic for us Christians to practice. Look at the perfect example is the cross. The cross is the most demonic pagan invention in history. It was the torture and torment and the violence and the bloodshed and the execution of humans on this device, this torture device. Like, we don't really think about that often, but the cross is the most violent, wicked thing, and the crucifixion of the Son of God is the most evil act that ever took place in history. That's the most demonic, evil act in terms of, from the fleshly side of things, the natural side of things, that ever took place in history. And yet it is the highest emblem of our salvation and even of our worship. We celebrate the cross, and the Apostle Paul names the cross countless times as an emblem of our salvation, an emblem of the work of Christ, as a symbol of Christ's death on the cross. And that's the power of Christ to transform the things of evil and the things of the world and the things of paganism for his glory, for his kingdom. So if the cross, which is the most evident example of pagan, wicked, godless, ritual practice, if the cross has been redeemed, transfigured, transformed, subjected under Christ, redeemed, and made into a symbol of great glory from a symbol of great shame, then that applies for everything that Satan has tried to corrupt. There's nothing that Satan has tried to corrupt, including every day on the calendar and every pagan festival you could ever imagine, or any pagan practice you could ever name. Nothing is outside of the lordship of Christ or the power of Christ to be transformed, transfigured, redeemed, and made new and brought into its true intention, which is to serve the worship of Christ. So even if there were any similarities between any pagan festivals that were then converted into Christian festivals as a part of the witness of the gospel, that's the conquest of the cross and of Christianity. That's not to our shame, that's to our glory. That's literally the point of the gates of hell being unable to prevail against the church, is that of course we're going to plunder the Egyptians. We're going to plunder their gold, and we're going to melt it down and reshape it into the temple, into the glory of God's house. So I think Christians often are missing that theology of conquest and of the power of the cross, the power of Christ to transform the most evil thing, and the most wicked satanic practice, into the greatest glory. And that God does that in order to put the devil to shame. He does that in order to declare the victory of Christ over the darkness. The darkness, if we give to the devil anything that he corrupted and leave it with him, then he has won in that territory. No, we are to conquer and repossess all of the lands, all of the work of the enemy on the earth. We are to take it back as representatives and warriors for Christ in his army. We are to take it back for his kingdom. So anyway, that's a very simple way. And by the way, people who object to the practice of various Christian traditions because of pagan origin or what have you, they often overlook the way that everything we do in life it comes from, everything we name even in life comes from some sort of pagan origin usually. I mean, the days of the week. Look at I don't see any Christian having a problem saying today's Thursday, even though it comes from the god Thor of thunder, the Norse god. or Monday being Moon Day. Literally, originally it was the worship of the moon, or Sunday, the worship of the sun. Saturday, Saturn, right? And on it goes. So, people don't really think. Same with, the months of the year. August being named after the Roman Emperor Augustus, so on and so forth. The rest of the months you can name similar things, but these are just simple examples. But if you really tried to apply that principle consistently to everything, then you couldn't live your life. You couldn't do anything. But actually, that is a false witness. It's basically declaring that Christ's kingdom is not strong or powerful. It is weak. It is unable to redeem and to conquer and to subjugate all of the pagan, godless counterfeits, and to restore them to their original design and to the genuine thing. So there you go. Hope that provides some level of confidence in your freedom and the liberty of as a Christian to celebrate freely the things of Christ, and to plunder wherever you want. you can like Paul said, nothing in creation that God created good is evil if it is sanctified by the word and by prayer. So please enjoy Christmas, the Christmas feast, the Christmas festival, which is 12 days, by the way. It's not just one day. It's traditionally been a 12-day feast, which is wonderful. I've said this before, but Christmas, if you boil it down, is the marriage of heaven and earth. It's the marriage of God and man. It's God becoming man, Christ uniting himself with his bride, with creation, putting on flesh, right? And therefore, if the marriage of heaven and earth takes place on the evening of Christmas, which is Christmas Eve, then whoever heard of a marriage that without a honeymoon? Like, obviously, the celebration doesn't end on that day. There's a 12-day festival feast that follows traditionally, and there's no reason to throw that away. Not every tradition is bad. So there you go. Just some bonus spontaneous thoughts. And that being said, with all of that meaning behind this statement, Merry Christmas to you, to your families, and enjoy the feast.